Welcome, guys, back to an episode of Chale Make We Vibe. So, today's episode is all about tech, building real systems, and what it actually takes to become vulnerable in this space. If you ever wondered whether school alone is enough, or what separates someone who just schools from someone who actually understands system, this conversation is for you. Today, I'm joined by my only boss and my one man, Jojo. So, a bit of an intro about Jojo. Jojo, make her drop your full legal name or
Um, I'm just Gideon Jojo. Gideon Jojo.
I. So he likes to be called Gideon Jojo or mostly Jojo. That is how most of the people they bell him. He's a software developer focused on both front end and back end with a strong emphasis on performance driven application. He spends a lot of time building and optimizing robust systems, and he's someone who prefers to understand how things work under the hood rather than just relying on abstractions. Jojo, welcome to Charlie Make Me Vibe.
All right, thank you, thank you. The intro is just me.
Ah, now where again you go me?
The way I'll just say maybe like different Jojo we did the team top or
Different
something.
Jojo. Why you get clone or you get twin? Which is which?
Yeah, you
Them
make
clone
it
you or you
start.
get twin?
Mm.
I. So let's just dive into the tech field first. So I want to ask, how did you get into software development?
Okay, so the whole software, even with the whole computer science thing, crap, it came like a last minute switch, right? So back then after SHS, I was just thinking more in terms of these mining engineering courses or maybe some medicine, this doctor stuff and all that. Initially,
Mm.
that was the plan, yeah. But then I came to Accra, and then whilst waiting for admission, I wanted to do something not just to sit down and waste time here. So I just wanted to maybe find a skill or just do something to pass time. And then I found this CS50 course on YouTube. I think it talks more on basics to computer science and all that. But initially, as I started the course crowd, and then um I didn't even finish it. It wasn't something that initially got me like very interested in and all that. But then I met someone in the computer science field, and then we had a conversation. I mean, someone in the industry stuff, and we had a conversation. And then I'm like, oh, I'm currently just waiting for my results. And he asked me, what do I want to be? Told him my engineering path and all that. But then he also suggested to me that, I mean, it would be great if you'd get into the tech as well. I got convinced actually, and then I jumped into computer science. Uh, got my forms from UCC, and then I quickly applied, and then I got to computer science. So that was where the computer science journey started from. And then with the software, I think it was more like a natural path. It was more like a natural path. I think it came as a result of curiosity. The idea that you can just build something from scratch, something out of thin air. You just think about something and then um it can come to life. So I think that was how this whole software development thing came as a result of curiosity. Yeah.
Okay, I see. So you thank the good Samaritan who convinced Jojo not to be a professional galamsey operator. We
Oh
thank you very
no.
much and giving us our software developer we have now. Yeah,
A
so
doctor wouldn't have been bad. Like Dr. Jojo in some lab coat
Jojo
there or
as a
something.
doctor, sadly, how I know you, I can't picture it.
Oh, it'll be solid. It'll be
This web.
solid. Yeah.
Imagine I go to hospital and they'll be like, "So, sir, what's wrong with you?" That's what you need to.
Uh,
Ever, ever.
or let's call the surgeon to to come and operate you. No, it's about Charlie.
Then Jojo is standing there in his scrubs
Yeah.
with his hand all gloved, holding one of those knives, a scalp or something. And like, Charlie, you know, go fuck, bro. Okay, it's a
Yeah.
nice way to get into the field. I feel most people just one or two convincing. Some people already knew before they entered computer science, but it was nice you found something early on and pave a path for yourself. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's move on. So, could you break down what you do in your job, being a software developer, and all? Break it down like you're speaking to Auntie Maggie.
Mm, I don't know. It would be. I think it's on a normal day. It is more random, right? So you wouldn't really have steps or something. But in simple terms, what I do is basically build applications, mostly web-based applications that people would interact with. So on a day-to-day basis, it's either we are building or maintaining applications in simple terms. That is what I'm doing.
Interesting. So, web-based front-end stuff. So, when you say
Yeah.
front-end, like web apps and web-based, what does that really involve?
Okay. So you see there are types of applications, right? Especially the ones on our mobile phones that we interact. So these are mobile apps, and then they also have what we call the web apps too as well. So typically, when you go into to the browser, I mean, when you have a link, you go into the browser. What you would interact with after putting in the link, that whole interface is what I would describe like a web app. So that whole interface that a user would actually interact with is it's a web app. Yeah, it's a web app. Mm.
So you deal more with what users interact. So I'm guessing backend is with the servers and systems at the back.
Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, so in simple terms to this front end and back end stuff. Um, front end would so when you hear or throughout our talk when you hear mostly front end, it is focused mostly on user interactions or what the actual user interact with, and then with backend backend would be like the actual logic that goes that runs in the background or the actual logic that goes on with the application itself. So front end is the interaction, back end is the actual logic that goes on. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. So being an industry expert in this field, what are some of the common mistakes developers make when they are building apps?
I think most from I would use myself as an example. I think back then when we are building applications and all that, we all we are thinking of is um the application should work, right? But then goes beyond it goes beyond that. Now in the industry, I think if you get in for some time, you would realize that you would have to build to scale. So most mistakes or most common mistakes that people do is they build without thinking about scaling. So they will build an app and then they don't really think of what happens if there are lots of users on, or maybe if the code base is um growing as large as possible? Is it something that can be maintained and all that? And then also another mistake that people do is they kind of skip error handling, right? So they build the applications or yes, they build these apps with the notion that the user would always behave right or they would always do what the app actually wants them to do. But then you can't really predict how users should interact with the application. So most people would really skip the error handling of application. What should happen should in case this thing breaks or something. Most people do that. Also, a lot of beginners also over rely on tutorial. Honestly, there is to me there is a real or huge difference between the real world and then tutorials itself. Because tutorials, you a lot of people think that they are progressing more like when they complete tutorials and all that. But in actual sense, tutorials are more like you are not really thinking. Someone is actually doing the thinking for you and you are just following. But in 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 the real world, it's actually different. You really do the thinking from A to Z. So people really over rely on the tutorial aspect as well. And then also another common mistake too is not really reading errors properly, regardless of where you are or the level that you are. Every time you build, you encounter errors. Now, what these some of these devs do is a lot of people are afraid of errors. When they see errors, they don't want to even really read the error to know much more about the error, what it's even saying. They just want to quickly put it in Chat GPT or Google Stack Overflow or something just to get it solved. But one should kind of read the error. Some of the errors are explanatory. You can try and then understand what it's actually saying. So these are some of the mistakes that common mistakes that people do when it comes to development. So,
I see. So now, if I'm using someone's app and I'm getting errors and it's not working perfectly, but the app is not able to tell me what I'm actually doing wrong, I should probably assume it's a beginner who built the app for me, right?
not entirely. But then ideally that one would come in so that focuses would be much more on the UX UI experience, right? When building an app, we want to make it as simple as possible for the user. So I don't really have to explain what you have to do if to achieve what you want to do on the app. The app should be like a self-explanatory thing. But then with what I'm talking about in terms of error handling is most people build with the notion that the users could use the app perfectly, right? So they tend to miss out edge case scenarios. A quick example, maybe I build a simple app that takes in input, maybe it takes in your name and then your age, for instance. And then the input that takes in your age, you are assuming that the user would put in an age. But then someone can come in and decide that no, I won't put in an age there. Let me put in maybe name at where the age is. Now, this in turn might break your application if you don't really cover like do some kind of a validation or handle these kind of errors and it goes through, yeah, it brings that application. So most people think about the happy part of the application, but then and then they tend to miss out a lot of error handling. Yeah.
So these are in terms what breaks up and sometimes give people access to stuff on your application where they're not supposed to gain access to.
Yes, yes, yes. So ideally, I mean it's not very cool if your app is out there and then maybe as a result of a user not even coming from the server or something, a user inputting something and then it actually breaks your entire application. It doesn't give a pleasant experience to the user.
So advise about reading errors properly. The little
Yeah.
programming I've done sometimes, and from my troubleshooting experience in my job, you have to read the errors. Sometimes the solution is right in the error. It tells you what is wrong. But I guess yeah, now we don't even
Yeah.
waste time. When our command line gives us the error, we just copy the whole thing, paste in ChatGPT, fix. Then we are waiting it brings it, then we do something, something, something. Sometimes we mess it up more than we tend to do. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So moving on, in your intro, I did mention you like understanding things under the hood. Why does that matter to you?
Okay. I think the whole under the hood thinking, right, is meant to make um work easy for you. What do I mean by that? So um in let's even use this scenario as an example. Assuming you walk in uh into a space or into an office, and then maybe there are rules that the office or the space are having, and then you don't know the rules in there. Now, every action you do, you don't really know if you are violating a rule or not until they tell you. So it's more like you are still, even though you are in that room, you are still a stranger. You don't know your um ins and outs, right? So understanding the food in terms of programming would ideally help you understand when something goes wrong. So it will help you understand exactly where to look out for. So most of the time, people would just want to I mean make things work. They don't really care about how the actual thing works or the tool that they are using deep down what is happening inside and all that. They don't really care about that. All that they care about is how it works. And initially maybe it might work for you, but then now when you move forward and then you discover issues or something, you now don't really know what to do or where to exactly even um look at these things from. So that is why I prefer in terms of learning things under the hood, learning exactly what happens in the background of things. So if it is programming, if it is framework, any tool that you pick, apart from learning how to use it, you also learn how it must also work as well. So that is the whole concept of under the hood thinking.
Okay. And in your quest in understanding the what's under the hood of things, have you ever reverse engineered someone's application or software?
Um so yes, I think even most of the applications, some of the simple applications, a lot of them, you can even use the inspect, right? You go to inspect and then elements. You can kind of,
Yeah.
um, yeah, see most of them how the structure is in the front end, aspect of things. And then it's, some of them too have their scripts running inside. You see, couple scripts running inside the application, then it kind of gives you an idea of maybe what they are doing and what they are. I think I've experienced this. So I used there was this form input, right? There was this form
Yeah.
input that takes in name and then I think it takes in name and password. Uh yes, and then the person didn't check for this SQL injection. So you could put in an SQL statement, and then it actually deletes.
Then,
Yes, not really return a result. Actually, even delete data if you want. So inside the input field that it should return, maybe you have to type in your name or something. You do your normal SQL command, maybe delete from users or something, and then it would be able to do that. Yeah. So there have been instances like that. Yeah.
okay. And to our viewers who don't understand SQL injection, so SQL is a database query language that's used to interact with databases. And sometimes some people, as I said, they don't sanitize when they are accepting information. So with that, for where he said the person was just taking simple data in a form, but he understands SQL, he could run some scripts. So instead of putting in his name and password, he could run actual SQL scripts. It's just like how Python scripts look like. They have their structure. You can run that in and get information from the database that's supposed to store the information he says. And these are how sometimes breaches occur and user data gets on the dark web and all that. So be careful of the companies or people you trust when filling forms, guys.
Yeah.
I so let's continue. What's the danger of relying too much on frameworks?
Okay. So the whole idea of framework, right? Well, it depends on how you would see it. Ideally, it's supposed to make someone's life easier because there are a lot of things that are already baked for you already, or they've actually prepared for you already. But then what most people actually do is they
So
just pick a framework.
so you can say framework. So you can say framework is like a starter kit for you when you're building something.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. So a lot of things are kind of defined already. You just pick them up and then you'll be able to run with it without doing a lot of things from scratch. Right. So in an ideal situation, it is meant to, or it is meant for the user to be able to build faster. Mm. But then if you don't really understand what's underneath this framework, it's basically like you coding on borrowed intelligence, right? So maybe someone has written something and then you just pick it and then um run with it. The dangers to it is so if you really depend or rely too much on framework, you tend to struggle a lot when the stack changes. Day in, day out, new things or new tools keep coming. You would hear oh, this this framework is in, that framework is out and all that. And then maybe you are really stuck at one. It's actually very difficult to adapt to different frameworks or to adapt to other tools as well. So the ideal thing or the advice I always give is mostly it's really not about the framework, but then it's more like your understanding, right? You need to actually understand um you need to actually understand the basics than just depending normally on frameworks. So most likely very, very difficult for you to adapt when the stack changes. And then also when you really heavily rely on, there are instances where maybe some of these things or some of these um, tools that these framework have defined for you, you keep on misusing the abstraction of it. You are using it, but you don't really know if it's actually the right way of using it. So these are some of the dangers when you kind of rely too much on frameworks. Yeah, it doesn't give you the
Mm,
as much control as you want. Yeah.
mm. Okay, and from what I'm hearing,
Mhm.
and sorry to ask this, but being in the cybersecurity space and all, that means some frameworks eventually become vulnerable. And if you are still relying on them, people could use that to infiltrate. or break your apps, right?
hmm Yes, in okay, so
Okay.
let's use this example, right? If I pick
Yeah.
something like React, for instance, back then how we
Mm.
used to create React is just this CR rating, and then it would create it for you. But then as time goes on, they tend to improve they tend to improve their system, they do patches on their frameworks and all that. And then if you now even go to their documentation, we don't use the CRA again, the create reactor. They recommend you use Vite to actually do it when you are spinning maybe a React project. So even to them, they keep on improving, or they keep moving forward. Once you start with maybe a particular framework, or this is what I know, you don't tend to grow. You would still stay where you are. You would miss out on new things. You would keep doing the old things. Even if, like you said, um, there is this vulnerability discovery in some of these things, you tend not to upgrade yourself or update yourself, and you keep using those stuff.
Mm. That's nice to know. All right. So in our previous conversation, you did say school alone doesn't make you rich. Your skills do. Could you break that down?
Okay. Yeah, so the the I wouldn't be the person here to discredit school, right? That's no, I mean school is not important and all that. The school is, but then in our field, what I've realized is it's much more of your skills than certification, right? So I've been in couple interviews, and then honestly, no one has even asked me about um, what was your class or your results, or no, none of them have asked me about all these things. All that they ask for is what can you do? So they are more focused on what you can do rather than maybe the grades that you have, and all that. And then also, if you think of it, year in year out, people are graduating every day from different schools and all that. Right. So what would really make you stand out in that kind of thing would actually be your skill, what you'd actually know. So ideally that is a way to get you going than rather depending on the school. The school would give you the structures, the exposure, but then it wouldn't guarantee value for you. The industry or the market alone doesn't um reward effort for certificates from what I've seen, but then it's really about what you can do. So two people can have the same degree, but then maybe what would set one apart from the other would be the actual skill or what the person can do. Yeah.
Mm. I see. Mm. So
Mm.
what
But then
should
this
people
this is
focus on
not
instead?
yes, but then this is not to say that school is not important. It really is, but uh it's just the skill that is really important, because from some of the teams that I've worked with, even some of the teams that I've worked with, the people that I've worked with, not all of them are even, or not all of them did computer science in the first place. I've worked with people that maybe that were in the medical field, but then the person had passion for coding, and then we were able to work together, electrical engineering and all that. So ideally, it's not the computer science course that would make it. I mean, so it doesn't matter the course that you are doing and all that. It's your skill that would push you there.
So quick one. if someone is starting today, what should they actually be doing?
If someone is actually starting today, should they actually be doing? Um,
Yeah. What should they
learning the
actually be doing?
fundamentals. Learning the fundamentals. I keep um telling people around me that you always have to understand the fundamentals because that is actually what would really make you a solid developer. Now and now we are in this AI era, and then people want to move as fast as possible. So they just don't really, they just follow through YouTube, and then they don't really get the concept and all that. But in the real world, life is not like the YouTube tutorials. So if you are starting today, it is ideally best to learn the fundamentals, and then you start building early as possible. You start building early as possible. So with the notion of okay, let's do it. The tutorial videos will give you an assumption that yes, you are growing, but then um after that you can sit down and then do maybe a small project for yourself, build something. And so that is where the actual learning comes in, because once you are even building, you realize that there are a lot of errors that you encounter that maybe at the time of tutorials, when they encounter that, the person leading the tutorials will just think through and then solve it without you actually doing any actual thinking. So it pushes you to learn. Once you see these errors, once you fix them, it pushes you to and it pushes you to learn. So start building as early as possible. Get your fundamentals right. That is what would actually set you to become um a real solid developer. Yeah.
So, in the famous words of Jojo, if your fundamentals are weak, your skill rate will expose you. And you keep saying they should like try out projects and they shouldn't just watch tutorials. So are there like websites, when it comes to with my field that I'm in, I know we have like labs and CTFs, we have places where you can practice your skill. Are there places like that for developers where you can go and practice if you can build this, if you can build that, if you can design this and all that?
Yeah, so in um in this space, right? Ideally, when I even say build project to practice, build something that is around you, right? Something that you can really have value of. It doesn't have to be complex, right? It doesn't have to be complex. So, most people, or even some of these tutorials, they are kind of the same thing. Let's build social media, let's build e-commerce, let's build these things. These things they do already exist. But then build something that is, yeah, you spot a problem around you. Um, build something around that. A big example, I recently built this currency converter. Of course, you can go to online and just um try to convert currencies as you want. But then um how I wanted it to be is much more like I would be able to select maybe now my favorite currency, and then with just a click it will be able to kind of convert them into the favorite that I've selected in and all that. So these are short maybe problems that I would see around me that I'll just pick it up and you know what, let me try building this for myself. So if you want to practice, you can build things for yourself. There are a lot of things around you that you feel like you can better. It can even be your portfolio. You can build a personal portfolio for yourself. As part of this building, you would realize that occasionally you are improving and all that. Yeah.
Mm, I see. That's nice. That's some nice advice right there. So Charlie, if you're at home and you feel like you just want to do anything, just try start with building. But I also want to ask, in your field, is creativity also a thing that's needed in the field, or there's some aspect of creativity is needed. Because I know if you're in like let's say the industry, you don't just raw dog stuff. There are like procedures, everything that, I don't know, but I'm sure you people have things you follow at the company you work at, like how it's structured. But is
Yeah,
creativity
yeah.
also a thing that's needed?
Oh yeah. I think even just when you pick software development, when you just pick software development, you can have a lot of things, different positions inside. Like so, ideally, most of the time you don't have to do everything. So um, you can have a development team where we have like uh, uh, a product manager. You would have a designer, UX UI designer. So these people are just specializing on the UX UI, how the app should look like, how the user should interact with the app with ease. You would have front end people that would actually build the interface and do integrations and all that. You would have back end people too, somewhere that would also do the logic too as well. And then there are QA testers. So it's actually a broad thing. It's actually a broad thing, especially when you are running on a large scale. You just don't do everything yourself. You would actually work with a team. So you'd have people that would design, that would make design. First of all, you would have maybe your um project requirements or like the product requirements. So a user would come to you, or maybe you have stakeholders somewhere. This is what we want and all that. All the developers would read through the product requirements. The designers would come up with a design based on the requirements or what they need. Product manager would look through it and see if it's satisfying what they actually what it was actually required. And then before it comes to the actual engineers, where the front end, back end people would build it, and then the QA tool would also test it as well. So there is like a whole streamlined process that goes through before an app gets ready for deployment and all that.
Mm, okay, that's nice to know. Very interesting. Having a whole pipeline and all that. No, it's no only because when you're starting out, you think, oh, you have to test, you have to do this, you have to do that. But when you get to the industry, people have specialized in sections of the pipeline that you used to think you'd be doing whilst you were running your mini projects. Yeah.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. So let's switch it up a bit. Tech and football. I know you're a very big football fan. I remember when I first met you, you were a big football guy. How do those connect
Yeah.
for you?
Tech and football. I mean, it's
Yeah.
in a way, it's very similar, right? It's very similar. How did they connect? So you see, let's say not just football or in any other sports, you can watch it on a surface level and then just be like, oh, they are just playing. So if you pick football, if you pick basketball, I can just make an argument that I mean football they are just kicking the ball to see who would score. Because basketball they are just bouncing the ball to put it in the football the net or something. But then you realize that there are a lot of things that goes in into these things rather than just these statements that I've mentioned. There are positioning, how players should move together and all that. And that is how coding, or yes, that's how coding too is. It is different parts or things moving differently that would now come together and then we make a whole system, right? So if maybe one part is off, just like how football, if let's say some parts are not functioning well, it kind of affects the entire team. The same way for system two, if some part of your system is off, it kind of also your system also feels the impact as well. So there is this kind of similarities between tech and football. And also in the same vein, also talks about mindset, right? So you see highly athlete people talk about discipline and consistency, discipline and consistency. The same way tech two is. It's more of consistency. You should realize when you are trying to learn a new skill and then today you start, then you leave it and then you come back again. You tend to be like, oh, I've actually forgotten everything. I don't know how to do this, or did we even do this thing and all that. So the mindsets very, very similar to how athletes who are very disciplined. You show up when you have to show up. You'd always be consistent when you try to when you are learning. You keep training and repeating to improve. That is how second football comes in.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. And not forgetting your other favorite sports to F1. I don't know where sadly most of the guys are now or big F1 fans. And you, for instance, I want to ask, which team are you like? Which team are you behind in F1? Is it Red Bull, Ferrari? There's one that's just coming back. I forgot the name. I know these two teams, but I'm
McLaren.
not very big.
I mean,
Eh,
yeah, we have couple teams, but then I mean, how I got into F1 is even funny, right? Initially, just like I said, I was just F1 didn't make sense. It didn't make sense for me because it's much more like uh, the same cars and then they are going
just go
round
round and
round,
round and round.
yeah, for 50, 60 times. And yeah, what's the fun here? Like, what's the fun here? But then if you go into it, I think one time I was watching a video and then they were trying to explain the science part of it, right? The whole
Yeah,
science part of it, of how they tend to build these cars. They'll talk more on aerodynamics and all that. Some kind of the teams are doing different things just to make their car a little bit faster than the other ones. And it was fascinating how they like they would display this whole engineering act, right? So that is where my love came in from F1. Do I really have a favorite team? Not really. So as of the time that I started watching, it was always Red Bull that keeps on winning. So I just wanted
that's
something different.
Verstappen.
Yes, Max Verstappen. He was the only one that was actually winning, won the world champion couple of times. So I was supporting anyone, anyone different apart from Max Verstappen. So anyone that would actually do well. So, and then I
It
would say I
was
have yes, but then I would say now I have a soft spot for Ferrari. Yeah, I feel like they are OGs. Yes, and
the
even
Louis
though
Hamilton.
they are not really doing well as expected, I feel like they'll be back. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I'm not really a big F1 fan, but one thing I realized about F1 too was like, as the race is also happening, the engineering sector, the teams behind it, they also have their own like competition they're also going for because I know the
yes,
FIA
yes,
has requirements for each car. So they give standard
yes,
and it's very strict. So people is like they give you rules and you're trying to break the rules just to make your car go a microsecond faster than the other cars on the track.
yes,
And it's very interesting
and
when
and and
someone let me land. It's very interesting when someone
all
breaks
right,
a rule and in the middle of the season is when they get to understand or get to realize that so that's why your car is moving fast. Okay, take it out. They fine you and all that, the rules and FIA comes in and all that. It's very interesting.
yeah. So
They
a
say
lot of teams actually I think they copy from each other. So if you do something that would magically improve your car, they tend to copy, and then everyone wants to become better of the other person.
yeah. expected. That's very expected, yeah. And it's very nice. And I think it's the same with also MotoGP. I don't know about NASCAR, but I know MotoGP and F1. Yeah, they do it. They're all about the engineering, aerodynamics, trying to make their car just go a bit faster than the other in the engineering aspect of it. Mm.
Yeah.
And for football, what's your favorite team?
Manchester United. It has to be Manchester United and no other team.
I was really
Great.
going to troll you because after this time of the recording, Manchester just qualified for UCL next season,
Yeah.
and I wanted to troll
Now,
you,
now
but
we
they
are.
won the match.
Yeah. Now we are in a better place. Let's see. Let's see.
Yeah, and I think the person I'm waiting to troll is the Arsenal fans. I don't watch EPO, but I was like everybody's saying they are bottling the league, and I think for the past seasons, Arsenal is always at the top during the league, but when it's getting to the end of the race, it's more like the tortoise and the hare with Arsenal. They'll always be at the top,
Hmm.
but at the end, they will come in second. Do you
Maybe
think
this
this
season
season,
might be different for them. Maybe. I think they stand a better chance of the league. Yeah.
if Arsenal wins the league this season, the their haters will really feel it. They will go
Yeah.
on a spree. All
Mhm.
right. So before we close, I want to ask some quick questions. What's one skill every developer should build right now?
Um, problem solving. Problem solving. I think problem solving is a skill. When you start out, you think, I'm coding, but when you get more comfortable, you realize that now the thing has shifted from just making things work or just coding to problem solving. A lot of times, what you build for users would always introduce new challenge for you. Maybe you build the app, you should behave this way. Users would find a way of making your app do weird things. So problem solving is a skill that every developer should have. If you fear problem solving, I don't think that the field is actually for you.
Yeah, but if you build an app and me as a user, I use it as you intend. It's not fun. You don't have anything to talk about. I have to
No,
break your
but
app once in a while.
yes. So some of them too, it's not even about that. It's much more of improvements and all that. So maybe today you have an idea. Okay, let's build an app that will do this, do that. When you are like when we built the app for you and then it was in the market, you realize that oh maybe it would be fun if maybe we improve on hub. The users now want the app to also behave in another way. So they sometimes there are requests that they would come in. Also there will be challenges. So along the line you'll be doing maintenance, adding new stuff, solving issues, trying to block out things and all that. And then that makes the problem solving more fun. Some are complicated, some are straightforward. Yeah, that makes the whole uh building thing fun in a way, and sometimes stressful too in a way.
Yeah. Okay, so what's one mistake to avoid when you're starting early in the space?
Um, I keep sounding like I hate tutorials, but then staying in tutorial mode for too long, right? Staying in tutorial mode for too long. I think a lot of people would really relate to this in the sense that the idea of completing a tutorial, right, would give you the feeling of, yes, I know. So you would actually build it yourself, or you would actually, without the help of tutorial, To me, that's why I feel like that's where the real learning is. After watching the tutorials, and then you close down the tutorials or you understand the tutorials, building something is where the application is. So the application is doesn't happen when you are doing the tutorial, but then it happens when you are actually building the thing. So mistake that people should avoid is staying in tutorial mode for too long. Because tutorial might give you a feeling of progress. Once you are done, build something independently that would make you learn. That would help you grow. You would see new errors, new mistakes, things that you've never encountered before. You search for them, you build, you would keep adding memories and all that stuff.
Mhm. And I think from the little knowledge I have about program back in my programming days, I think there's such a thing as like tutorial fatigue. You
Yeah,
watch tutorials so much that
tutorial
you get to
help.
a point
Yeah.
that yeah, you've watched almost every tutorial out there, like the basics of the basic of the tutorial. You
Mm.
have to do this. Like you get to a point and it seems that's all the content on the internet because they are not going to production and they are not doing fun stuff. So yeah, when it comes to the
Yeah.
tutorial side, I
Most. So the thing is, I think if you go to YouTube right now, most of the tutorials, in a way, they are more like a one-way thing, right?
yeah,
What building e-commerce, let's
social
build
media,
social
a web
media,
store,
let's and all these things. I mean, they are great for learning, right? When you are new to it and you're learning, fine. But then, what problems do they actually solve, right? In a sense that even in the real world, right, when someone comes to you that he wants e-commerce, there are a lot of things that a person might demand from just the simple e-commerce thing or maybe blogging websites and all that. I've actually I've worked on this blogging website project with someone, a role client, and then at some point the person now wants the blogging website to give like crypto information. So this is like something new. This is like a real world thing to give a crypto information, able to display rent markets, to be able to kind of find these houses to rent, job market and all that. So it's it is different from like the actual tutorial that people will be watching. So if you even watch a tutorials on blogging websites and all that, they are just giving you the basics of how to build maybe a lot
yeah,
of that. But in real world, what the clients are demanding for, it's actually different from what you're experiencing in tutorial. You don't stay in
yeah.
tutorials for too long. Learn to build independently.
Hmm. Okay. And what would be your final advice for anyone trying to get into tech?
Um, don't chase hype, right? I think chase understanding. Now we are in an era of AI. You'd see, oh, this new AI agents or this new AI stuff is seeing, and then a lot of people are jumping into it. It doesn't mean that if you don't know you are bad, right? Just chase for understanding. Yes, just chase for understanding. Learn the fundamentals. The fundamentals. People that
Hmm.
really want to get into the tech space, learn the fundamentals. Don't heavily rely on AIs. If you skip the fundamentals, it would be a problem for you going. And then that would only make you a solid developer. If you would have like a very strong foundation, you would actually be a solid developer. So when we even do this comparison, if we pick like maybe uh, two people and maybe an average developer and then a solid developer, what actually separates these two is that an average developer will tend to memorize patterns. Okay, this is how we do this. This is how we do that. a solid developer would really understand why this pattern exists in the first place, right? So they would go in deep and understand, okay, why this, what does this pattern solve? Why they exist? Like an average developer would just want to pick a pattern and then just memorize it and then use it and all that. Also, it would help you. So getting the fundamentals would help you with your debugging abilities. How you'll be able to debug stuff when there are issues and all that. So most of your career or in this part isn't just writing codes. Most of the times you go into teams that there are already existing code somewhere that you need to understand why something is not working. A lot of times it happens. This thing used to work, now it's not working. Why doesn't it work and all that stuff? So always the fundamental.
Mm.
If you get your fundamentals right, you will be you'll be able to succeed in this area.
Jojo, thank you for this episode. And one thing I can surely say I got from this episode is that if your fundamentals are weak, your skill rate will expose you. According to Jojo, he has stressed on fundamentals so much. So, guys, that was Jojo, straight to the point, no flap. As he already said, your skills matter, understanding matter, and building real things is what sets you apart. Jojo, thanks for coming on the show. And before I go, this episode shout out goes to Gifted Granula. Indulge in nature's beauty. So, Gifted Granula is a brand on the market that sells granula in 50 grams, 250 grams, 250 grams, 500 grams, 1 kg, and 2 kg. You can find them on TikTok on gifted underscore granula. And I'll put their WhatsApp number and contact number in the description. Jojo, thank you for coming on this episode. And guys, once again, this is Chale Make You Vibe. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to share and kindly listen to us. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, we're on Amazon Music, we're on YouTube, and we're on socials, we're on Instagram, TikTok, and X. I beg, please interact with our posts. We need to reach a larger audience. Thanks once again, and this is Charlie Make You Vibe. See you in the next.